we'll do this throughout the year about once a month. So, but you can just go to sli.do and then enter that event code. It should pop up and prompt you for the event code. You can see that there on the screen. And the way that this works, once you get logged in, you'll see two tabs at the top. One says questions, one says polls. And we're going to do both. Questions is where you can submit some questions. So if you have any questions about anything that's going on within our church, questions about we just walked through the All In series in January, and that was pretty challenging, I think, for all of us. If you have any questions flowing out of that, you can submit those questions. I usually am not able to get to all the questions in this 15 minutes that we do this, but it'll help me to be able to know which ones I need to try to answer right now. If you'll watch the questions that are coming through, and you can like those questions, that lets me know that more people are interested in those questions, and then I'll try to focus in on those as they come through. And then you'll see the polls tab. So if you guys would go ahead and activate the first poll, and then we'll try that out. You'll also be able to see the results as they come through live on the screen. So they'll work to get that switched over. And as soon as the first poll gets activated, they will. It should pop up there on your computer. There we go. So you can see if you're on there. This is just a fun one, just to get you going. This is a safe question, easy one. Who are you for in the Super Bowl? Eagles, Patriots, or I just watched the commercials. So go ahead. Oh, it's a good question. I don't know what the password is. That's really bad. It's this combination of letters and numbers that I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. So that's the second person that's asked me that this week. So this week, we're going to get it changed to something that's easier to use. That way I can let you all know what it is, because I don't know what it is. But here's some votes coming in. Who are you for in the Super Bowl? Eagles. I like the way that's trending. That's good. Hey, Derek Barnett used to play for Tennessee. He's now with the Eagles, so we can cheer for a fellow Tennessee Vol fan if you're a Vol fan. All right, so you go ahead and submit your questions through here, and I'll let a few more of those come in. Let's go ahead and activate the other poll. And so it looks like the Eagles are winning out. They're going to activate the other poll, and we'll get that going. While they're doing that, I'll go ahead and answer a few questions. Let me just start with some of these that have gotten some thumbs up. So when will missional community groups meet? Great question. We'll be letting you know exactly when those will meet. Here's kind of the plan. I mentioned this earlier, but I'll elaborate a little bit. The idea with the missional communities is they're going to look as they get together. They'll kind of look at a month, and they'll say, what's our rhythm going to look like this month? Typically what that's going to include is 2 or 3 times of meeting together. Every group, every missional community will identify a night that's going to work best for them. I know there's a chance we're probably going to have 1 or 2 that maybe meet on Sunday night. We're going to have some that'll meet during the week on a night. We're still working some of that out. But what we're going to encourage you to do is to find people that you're connected to relationally. That would be the first way we want to get you connected together. And try to get you connected with those people. Again, we're not meeting, we'll meet on average 2 to 3 times a month. They'll gather together at a planned time at somebody's house. So that'll vary depending on the group, but that's something we can definitely let you know a little bit more about as we move through. So, but the idea is that you'll gather intentionally for Bible study, prayer, and talking about the mission that you're pursuing together 2 to 3 times a month. But you'll also find times just to do life together. Grab coffee together individually. That might not be the whole group. That may just be 2 of you. Go out and grab coffee together. Be more intentional. Like I said earlier, go support somebody else in a school activity or school function or something like that. All right, let's look at the polls real quick. We've got one going right now. Which relationship is going to be the hardest for you to go all in this year? So this is going back. If this is your first time with us, we use this wording of up, in, and out. And up being your relationship with Jesus, in being your relationship with other Christ followers, out being your relationships with people that you know are disconnected from faith, disconnected from God, and you seeking to build a relationship with them to earn the right to share the gospel with them and bring them to Jesus. So it looks like out is clearly winning, and that's I think that's normal for us to feel like that's going to be the hardest one that's there. So that'll be something we'll continue to work through. And as you this answer right here just more affirms the reason why missional community is so important, because it does feel overwhelming. It does feel too much at times to be able to know, what does it look like for me to go all in my relationships with people that don't yet know Jesus. When you're locked in with other people who are striving for that as well, it makes it a little easier for you to process through what that looks like, and you hear from other people as they're doing that. You've got people praying with you as you work through that, so that's good. All right, so let's hit on you guys can go ahead and switch over to go ahead and activate another poll, and I will hit some of these other questions that are in here. Let's see, the next top one that's coming through right now. Are there plans for a men's Bible study group? I need to know exactly a little bit more about what you mean about a Bible study group in regards to that, but what we will be doing through our missional communities is we'll be creating opportunities for the guys in those communities to get together and to spend some time together studying Scripture. That's definitely a big part of this. So the idea with the missional communities is that they're actually, so small groups or group studies are typically about 12 people or less, typically in that 6 to 12 range. Ideally, as our missional communities are at a healthy point, these will be up close to 15 to 20. So these are larger gatherings of people, that they're big enough that you can actually accomplish something together. They're small enough that you don't get lost in. But what we'll do within those is we'll figure out a big part of that is they do have to get smaller, in the sense that you've got to get to know each other on a more personal level, even within that group of 20. So we'll be figuring out ways for the guys to do some things together, for the ladies to do some things together within those communities. So it hits actually a couple different social spaces as we do this community life together. So that'll be something that we'll work toward. As far as a specific men's Bible study group that meets at a certain date and time and is only reserved for guys, that's not something that's on the radar right now. But we would encourage you to, if that's something that God's prompting in your heart, find a few other guys. Don't wait on us to plan it. Find a few other guys and get together, jump in Scripture together, jump in prayer together. Let it be focused up in and out, though. So feel empowered. Don't wait on us to plan everything, and go for it. If God's got a few guys on your heart, pull them together, jump in Scripture together. I would just say keep it focused up, in, and out, so that it's healthy and it reflects what Jesus would want us to do. There's another question. I'll hit this one, and we'll jump back to the polls. What if my family is new and we want to get plugged in? A great question. So a couple steps I would say. The first three things you could do is, one, we just had last week what we call Intro to the Grove. That's a great way to kind of find out more about our church. You can go to our website and sign up for that. You can also go to the Connections area. There's a picture on the wall back there that says Intro to the Grove. You can scan that with your phone and sign up from there. So that's one step. You can find out more about our church and kind of who we are. But more practically, I would say a missional community is going to be a great next step for you and your family. These communities are going to be family sensitive. Some are going to have more kids in them than others. And what's fun about this is you really learn, you become a family. You almost become like a village raising kids together. And it's a cool thing to be a part of. So they're definitely kid sensitive, family sensitive. So I'd say a great next step for you and your family may be a missional community. If that's a step you feel like maybe a little bit too much, volunteering on Sunday is a great next step. So whether it's you come serve together as greeters, or maybe in the kids ministry, there's a lot of different volunteer opportunities there. So maybe that gives you some direction. I'm going to switch back over to the poll. The poll we've got coming through right now, a few responses coming through. After discussing the idea of shifting our mentality from me to we this morning, what are you thinking? So that one's there. Some great feedback coming in. I love that all those responses are great. That one right there, I don't have to find my way through everything going on my own. And the church that's one thing you can feel like sometimes, even being a part of a gathering on Sunday morning. It's easy when we're sitting in rows all facing in the same direction to feel like even sometimes you're still going through it all on your own. But when you can look across and look into somebody's eyes and hear their story and they hear your story, that makes a big difference. To really know that you're not alone. So some good responses coming through on that. I think you can maybe scroll through there and see some of those responses that are coming through. So, how and when were I called? I guess how and when were you called to preach? A short answer on that. That's been a journey. I felt it when I was actually a senior in high school. It was the first time that I started speaking. So, that's been a while ago, about 17 years ago, and God's just allowed me to have opportunities since then, and it's something I've just kind of been growing in. I think the call has become more clear what that looks like as I've went on, but I can elaborate a little bit more on that maybe at a different time. But for me, it started when I was 17, and it was just a clear call from God that he wanted me to just not sit back, and was calling me into leadership in the church, and I didn't really even know what that looked like. So I thought I was going to teach school. That's why I have a teaching degree. Thought I was going to teach school, coach ball, and like work part-time at a church or something, because that's what I grew up around in a small town. But it's amazing how you tell God what you're going to do, and then he does other things. So good responses coming through. Go ahead and open up another poll if you guys can. We got just a few more in there. Another question that's asking for a lot. It's got a lot of good. It's got a lot of thumbs up. How do I step from going to church on Sundays to going all in? Well, that's great. So different things to be thinking about. If you'll actually go to our website, and there's a Next Steps tab, and when you hover over Next Steps, it'll drop down, and it'll show up, in, and out. So the great way to start thinking through what are my next steps is to think through up, in, and out. And on the website, it gives you different examples of what next up steps might be, next in steps would be, and what next out steps would be. So we've tried to put that on our website so you can be thinking through what your next steps are. I would love to help you think through those next steps. So whoever sent in that question, or if you all have, love to help you think through what those are and what it looks like to go all in. But I think going all in happens a step at a time. So it sounds like just jumping all in, jumping off a cliff, but it's really intentional steps consistently over time leads us to being all in. There's no quick fix to it, so I'll say that. Go ahead and respond. There's a question popped up there about, we really wanted your feedback on this. We need you to pick 2 times. I think it's locked in where you're only allowed to pick 2 times. We are anticipating a great crowd for Easter Sunday. We want you to have room to invite. Good thing about the Christmas Eve service, we packed it out, had about 250 people. The room was full. We couldn't have squeezed anybody else in here. That was great. But I also know, because some of you told me, I was hesitant to invite people because, like the Sunday before, we were up over 200 and it felt really crowded. And some of you said, I don't know, I want to invite people, but are we going to have room for them? So for Easter, we want to make sure that that's not an issue. We want to make sure there's plenty of room for you to invite everybody that you want to invite. And we're going to challenge you to serve one service and then be in one service, because we want to make sure we're fully staffed to do kids ministry and greeters and hospitality and everything, and for 2 services. So we're going to challenge those of you who are volunteering to serve one service and then to be a part of another service. That way we can make that happen. And so it looks like we're kind of locking in on 9:30 and 11. That's why I put that out there, so we can get some feedback. So I can pretty much say we'll probably do a 9:30 service and an 11 o'clock service, it looks like. So, but please just be in prayer about that. We'll need some people who will commit to serve at 9:30, and we'll need some people who will commit to be here at 9:30, and then vice versa as we move forward with that. Go ahead and pop up that other poll, guys, if you would. I think there's maybe one more in there. When you go all in, and the church and our people, this is a strong question. When you go all in and the church and our people hurt you, how do you heal? Wow, that's tough. I've been there. This time last year, Jennifer and I were coming out of a difficult church experience in Michigan, and I can speak very personally to this, that first of all, it takes time. It takes time. First thing you got to do is you got to cling closer to Jesus than you ever have, realizing that Jesus has not failed you even though people fail you, because that happens. And for us, we had to explain that. Caden was 7, I guess, this point last year, and he's old enough to realize that something wasn't right, and we had moved to Michigan, and now we're moving back to Tennessee, and so he was aware of enough that was going on. But it was a great opportunity for us to talk to him about how people fail us, but God never does. And as much as he could somewhat wrap his mind around that as a 7-year-old. So first of all, it takes time. in that time, you got to cling closer to Jesus than anything else and realize that he hasn't failed you. And then you've got to find people who you can trust again, and that just takes time. You can't rush that. You got to learn from your hurt and your wounds in the past. I think it's easy to over-trust people too quickly, so learning how to let your guard down carefully, to learn where other people are at is some wisdom, some things that we've learned to do through that. So after Easter, we're going to be doing a teaching series called You Asked For It. I'm really excited about this, but this will not work if you don't ask for it. So I want some feedback from you all on what are some topics that you would like me to dive into. And we're going to do this throughout the whole month of April, maybe even into May for a week, depending on how much interaction we get. So if you have some things that are on your mind right now, go ahead and submit those in. Would love to get some feedback on that, and I'm going to take things that you share. You'll be seeing feedback that we'll have questions like this out in different ways through social media and through our Sunday services. In March, we may have a card in your seat where you could just write a topic in there. So we'll have some different ways that you can share topics, and probably won't be able to get to everything that comes in, but I will try to package those together and jump into that. So that's good. My hope is we can touch on some subjects that maybe we won't typically touch on, and that'll be a great way for you to be able to share with other people. Hey, we're talking about this, and this is kind of I don't care, like, even if it's controversial. Like, we'll get in it. We're going to look at it from a scriptural standpoint, but I will. I'm not just going to take the easy ones. So feel free to bring in the hard ones, because I know those are questions that we all wrestle with, and if it's too hard, I'll just tell you. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'll try to give you some resources, and maybe we figure it out together. But would love to get some feedback from you on those. All right, let me maybe hit one more question that's in here. If I wanted to start a group to come together and give thanks to Jesus, how could I become more confident and willing to speak about God? Well, I guess kind of two questions there: how to start the group, but then how to become more confident. So what we're going to do, because our vision is that as we start these first 3 missional communities, that they will grow, and over time they'll multiply out and birth new communities, because healthy things give birth. And so if a missional community starts and 5 years from now it's the same 8 people, then we've kind of missed the mission component. So the idea is that they grow, and that we do reach people, and we bring new people into these. And the way that we'll start new ones is we'll encourage you to plug in, and then we'll raise up leaders from within those and send them out to start new communities. And as far as you being confident and speaking out, one, bathe it in prayer. Ask God for the confidence. He tells us to ask for things, and he'll give them if they're in line with his will, and that's something that we know is in line with his will. So ask God to give you the confidence and the boldness to share, but then you just got to start doing it. You really just got to start doing it, but don't do it in your own strength. That's why I said pray first. Ask God for the confidence to walk you through that. So thank you for all the feedback that's coming through on those. I think there's a couple questions I maybe didn't get to, so I'll do a video post this week and try to answer the rest of those, and we'll put that out on social media if you want to do that. I'd encourage you to just turn the audio on and look at something else so you don't stare at me on the screen, because that never looks good. So just listen to the audio, and I'll try to answer those questions for you. But thank you all so much for participating. I always enjoy doing this, and I hope you get some good feedback from each other.